Welcome to the Rise as One podcast, episode 11. Happy Sunday to all of you out there. Kathy and I are here. This week we are adapting, adjusting, and executing all over the place. We had all kinds of things to take care of. But today, it's about bonds. It's about family time. Saturdays and Sundays as entrepreneurs, I know a lot of entrepreneurs out there, as we go through the work week, we are constantly on the grind, on the go. So I had a ritual with the guys on Saturday morning. We spoke about being nothing but bonds. This week is all about the bonds. How do we give all of ourselves to the ones we love the most? Because if we don't pay attention to that stuff, we will definitely put it to a side burner. And then what happens?
Well, they let you know about it.
They will let us know about it. They will let us know about it.
That's what I would do.
Oh, she does that. Don't let her kid yourself there.
And I'm not always subtle.
Big shout out to Rob McNamara. Great wedding there a couple weeks ago. Rob, it was great to see you.
So good to see you.
Rebecca, thank you for checking in. You guys are logging in already. As every single week, we are here to deliver our insights,
Hi, Marion.
our wisdom. Marion Young, happy birthday, Marion. I saw it just your birthday.
Hello.
Bobby Shermer, what's up, my man? We're going to be having a party at the house here, Bobby, in the middle of July. I've been working very hard.
That's Aunt Bobby.
No, that's Bobby Shermer.
Okay.
So I've been working very hard in the yard, and I got my golf cart out there with a sprayer. I'm spraying all the flowers, and I'm putting flower pots out back. Got the pool getting ready to get open, so we're looking forward to having you guys here. Mr. Hepner from Real Ridge School, thank you for checking in this evening. I am here with my lovely bride, Kathy Shermer, and the subject today is, we don't want to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about this.
Yeah, but
But
we
the
felt
reality of it is,
compelled to talk about it.
it's compelling. We had Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, we had Robin Williams, and all these guys out there, and all these women out there, these kids out there, they have these thoughts in their head, and they start becoming this big hairy monster, and get so scary, we don't talk about it, and that festers and gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it consumes us. And then we don't feel compelled to talk about this.
Right.
But
Well,
the reality is we have
suicide
to.
is a uncomfortable topic to talk about. And when people bring it up, everybody sort of, cowers because it's not something you want to talk about.
But it's real.
But I think it's part of the problem, too, is that if you feel the people around you don't want to hear it or they feel uncomfortable, then you won't talk about it, and that's the problem.
And it goes back to Millbridge School, Mr. Hepper, right? Because it was like the bullies and all these things, and all of a sudden you felt guilt, you felt shame, and all this other stuff to where it consumes you. It may seem like a small thing in the beginning, it may be a small thing, and all of a sudden it becomes this big thing, and to the point where I can't tell anybody about these thoughts that I'm having.
Exactly. Robin just wrote, "Move the camera, we can't see you."
Move the camera, we can't see you.
And I think they really want to be focused on you. I'm okay if they don't see me.
Oh, I can see you. How is that, Robin? Can we see you?
Let us know if you can see us now.
But I remember going back to it in the high school days, and even when I was in Abbott Tech here in Danbury, I had bullies, and we were freshmen, and seniors would bully you.
Absolutely.
And you remember those things, and those things can consume you to the point is, today the kids are being bullied via text.
Yes, social media. Then not only are they getting bullied while they're at school, they come home and they're getting bullied, via Facebook and all the other social media sites.
And it goes back to my original podcast. I don't know if you guys saw episode 1. If you have not, go back and watch that one. But I believe I talked a lot about that, is that in order for us to stay together, to rise as one, right? We talk about rising as one as a couple, rising as one as a community, rising as one as a state, rising as one as a country, and then eventually rising as one as a world. If you're all alone, you're having these types of thoughts.
Right.
That's a scary place to be, alone in your own head, and it starts building and building and building and building.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that we don't really if you haven't suffered from anxiety, depression, it's very hard to relate to people that go through it. So
I never understood this until I met Kathy, because Kathy suffered from anxiety for years.
I have suffered since I was about 18 years old, was when I had my first panic attack. And there's a big difference between having an anxiety attack or a panic attack and suffering from panic disorder. There's a huge difference between feeling depressed, which we all do at times, and having clinical or seasonal depression. So it's a big point to make. You know, there are people that are suffering day in and day out.
And I remember when I used to fly with Kathy early on, I had no idea. She's like, I can't get on the plane. I was like, I didn't even feel the energy. I didn't see anything. I didn't notice anything. Once in a while, she'd get like a little bit red in her neck, a little bit red in her face, but
right.
I had no idea. And after we took off flying, she's like, oh my God, that was like horrible for me.
Right.
And I would have no idea. So the signs, visually, we don't see them. I don't see them. People that don't understand it don't see it. And it's almost like, how can you be having this feeling? That's just stupid. That's just dumb thing. How can you be having that, right? And people tell you this, and the reality is, this is real stuff. And I see a lot of people now. I think I was just talking to somebody the other day. They were talking about this, where their whole lives they didn't have a fear of anything. All of a sudden, they had a fear of heights.
Sure.
And they said, I can't get on a ladder anymore.
Absolutely.
So the body changes. The chemicals in the body, the cells change.
Sure. I mean, there's chemical imbalance going on with people that suffer from anxiety, and
I'm so proud of you.
It's very hard to talk about,
From
especially
where you were?
when I was younger. Now, you know, I don't care, but I found that, you know, people were very mean when you told them about it. I had someone tell me, you know, I wouldn't share this information because people think you're crazy. No,
and you can be an outcast. It goes back to being younger.
Nonsense.
Like the other kids don't want to hang around you.
Oh yeah,
if you have this...
I mean, let's face it. If you tell your friend when you're younger, like, I can't go out because I'm feeling anxious, they're like, see you around. I mean, they want to go out, want to have a good time, they want to talk about anxiety.
But they didn't understand it, and then they make fun of it, and they tease you even further
until they go through it.
And then all of a sudden, years later, they start experiencing, oh my gosh, now I know what you were talking about.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that we really don't talk about is, think about the turmoil in someone's life. Kate Spade, you know, these people have children. They have spouses. And they're leaving them behind. So the inner turmoil that must be going on inside of them to say, you know what? I'm still willing to leave my child behind to not go through this pain. Think about
that's
that.
a lot of pain.
I mean, I think Kate Spade's daughter's 10. David Bourdain, I'm pretty sure he has a child. I mean, we're talking some serious, deep demons. I don't know what you want to call them, but they must have thought there was no way out.
I believe wholeheartedly that we are our own worst enemies. Mentally, we are our own worst critics. We always beat ourselves up more than anybody else would beat us up. I remember when I was younger, if somebody would beat up on one of my brothers, I would flip out.
Yeah.
Don't you touch my brother. You can do it to me, but don't do it to my brother. So
I mean, I'm harder on myself than anyone else could ever.
And then we hold those feelings in to where it consumes us. And all of a sudden we have these thoughts, and it gets crazier and crazier. People are like, you're crazy. Yeah. It ain't crazy. It's just that we held in that stuff.
Right.
This stuff is supposed to be meant to be let out.
Yeah.
That's what, like, in younger, men don't cry.
Sure.
Look at how many men are struggling right now to show their emotions based upon their father's father telling them, men don't cry, we're the leader of their household, just go out and get a good job, make money, come home and support your family.
Yeah, suck it up.
And then they suffer, and then they come home on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What do? They get drunk, drugs, whatever.
And what do you do about people that are suffering PTSD?
Same exact thing.
These are not people that you can say, you know, suck it up, don't cry. You got to let that out. All those emotions that you're having, they will cause such inner pain if you don't let it out. And that's why things start to happen. So I just wanted to read you some of the stats here that we were just looking up online. Granted, this is a couple of different websites, so we're not sure how accurate it is.
Before you get to that point, I do want to make a point about this, is that there's studies done that when you become, like back in the day it was Indians, in the tribe, so we'll call it in the tribe, because that was the early days, stay together. It's about the connection. It goes back to the 3 C's. We had an episode 2 or 3 of this podcast. The 3 C's: connection, creation, and contribution. So if we're having these thoughts and these feelings, if we stay connected, the feelings aren't as big.
Right.
If we stay creative and become the creators that we were born to be, then you're going to end up feeling like you belong and you have some kind of purpose in life.
Sure.
And then if you contribute, the easiest way to get something that you want, give it to somebody else. Give it to somebody else, and that's the fastest way for you to get it.
Right.
So stay connected. If you're feeling these thoughts of anxiety, depression, get connected. Kathy's a great resource. You reach out.
Yeah,
we're always here. You are not alone.
You can always reach out to us. I'm not going to stand in judgment of you. I think that's one of the hardest things, because you know those people in your life where you bring up things to and they go like, oh gosh, that's terrible. Oh my gosh, and then they make you even more stressed. Yeah, that's not going to happen here. I mean, I've talked to people that suffer from anxiety. They've said, like, sometimes I feel like I don't want to go out anymore. And we talk it out. And there's doctors to go to. You can go to the hospital. I mean, you may not have to get to that point. But I'm just saying, we're not going to sit here and make you feel worse than you already do. Things happen. People have thoughts. You shouldn't have to feel like you have to keep them inside.
Exactly. And men, we are the worst. We don't want to tell anybody. We'll fight this battle alone. As a lot of you guys know, I belong to a high-level entrepreneur group here, a lot of business owners, and we're out there fighting the battle every day. But who do you turn to discuss your problems with?
Absolutely.
We all have the same problems. I don't care where you are. We all have the same problems.
And when you start to talk to people and they get real with you, you know that they've thought about these things before. They've thought about, times in their life when they were feeling really depressed and maybe, there was at that time no alternative.
Yeah.
But then you realize it's a permanent solution for a temporary problem.
And I think that the more you talk about it, the more you get connected with other people that are going through similar things,
Sure.
is that we can let that out and give the other person permission. You know what? I was feeling that too.
Mm-hmm.
I was feeling the same thing you're feeling.
And don't lessen a person's pain just because you haven't gone through it.
That's a great point.
Right, because I think sometimes people will tell us something, we're like, compared to others, that's nothing. Not to that person.
And if you are out there and you spoke to somebody about this and they have that reaction,
Hi, Chi.
don't go ahead and hang around that person any longer. They are not good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I remember at work, and it was just this kind of a funny story, but I had a bump behind my ear. And I went to one of my friends at work, and I was like, I have this bump behind me. And she goes, oh my God.
Is it a tumor?
And she goes, what do you think it is? Have you gone to the doctors? I think it could be bad. And I was like, okay. Then I went back to my desk. I put my head down and started crying. And then my boss at the time, Ray, I was like, I have a bump behind my ear. And he was like, oh, wow. What do you think it is? And he started cracking me up. He goes, come on. Do you have a tumor? Do you have this? How long do you think you have to live? And I just started laughing, and he was like, maybe you have a swollen gland, and it'll be gone by tomorrow. And sure enough, it was. So you kind of need people in your life, those certain people that, they don't take it too lightly.
It's a Chicken Little story.
They don't take it too lightly, but they also don't take it over the top. Because even for me, if I have anxiety and Joe has an anxiety, could you imagine? Joe, I'm anxious. Me too. I mean, wouldn't. You got to have a little bit of a balance there. If you get upset about something, I try to calm you down, and vice versa. So it is know who your resources are, and then go to them.
And that was the worst one of that. I used to go out there and try and share some things with people, and I would share it with the wrong people because the guys that know me, I'm just out there. I just give freely.
Right.
I start telling these people, it's like, why am I telling this person that? And Kathy, she has great insight, right? Our women always have a better perspective sometimes than what we have of what's going on. It's like, well, I think this. I'm like, that makes a lot more sense to me now that you said that. It's like, be careful who I share this information with because they're not ready to receive that type of information.
Sure. So one of the things is know your audience, right?
That's what it boils down to.
Because you get so excited and passionate about something, so you're like, wow, I just closed on a deal. It was great. And I'm like, yeah, you just told someone that lost their job. So Joe gets so caught up in the moment, he forgets a little bit about what that person may be going through. So you just, once again, it's talking to each other and just kind of giving you feedback, you giving me feedback about an individual. And, maybe I heard something that you didn't. And just knowing, once again, who your audience is. Because your intention is never to hurt the person. Sometimes we're just overjoyed by something and then you think, oh, wait a minute. I know you're going through a rough time. So maybe I'll tell you, but I'll watch out my approaches.
Yeah, that's a great point right there, guys. So I see you guys logging in here. Gina, what's going on? Chris, what's going on, guys? Thank you guys for checking in. What's up, Mark? So this is a very, very serious topic. Yeah. So I'm going to have you talk about the stats. We're just looking this up, and it's some scary stuff here.
Pretty disturbing is that it says, on average, one person commits suicide every 16.2 minutes. So during this podcast, at least one person will commit suicide. And really take that in. I've seen other, like I said, the minutes, that's an average. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the case. It could be even less time than that, possibly. There's 9 million Americans consider suicide every year. And I bet if we all had to comment on this and say, is it something you've thought about in your life? It would probably be more than 90% of the people that are listening right now.
And a lot of times that can be us saying, how can people even think that way? And then a couple years later, you start having those thoughts. So be careful where you're throwing the stones.
Right, absolutely. And once again, we always talk about walking in someone's shoes. Right. Yeah. I really try so hard not to judge people, because I think, you know what? They haven't walked in my shoes and I haven't walked in theirs. So I can't sit here and say, well, you know, it's interesting, because sometimes don't the people that appear the happiest, you're like, you hear stories and you're like, whoa, yeah. Really? Because we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. You know, just because you may see
how many times you see it with marriages?
A happy-go-lucky.
I thought they were the best couple ever. Also, now they're getting divorced. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, and you're shocked. But once again, just because you put on a persona on the outside, we don't know what's going on the inside.
And the reality is, we are all going through the same crap.
Yeah, a lot of people won't
different times along our journey, right? Our life's a journey.
And one of the most common underlying causes of suicide is depression, which I think most of us know. So there are people that suffer from depression. I know several of them. It is a real challenge. And those that I know have identified it, and they also talk about it, which is once again really healthy. I mean, for me, anybody that wants to talk about anxiety, I know a lot about it. Not everything, certainly, but I can certainly direct you on some things that have helped me. So make sure you PM Joe or myself, and let's talk, because I don't ever want to think that someone felt alone and couldn't talk or didn't know who to talk to. That's
a great point, guys. You are not alone. If you ever need to reach out, we are always here for you. I don't care what time of the night it is, something's going on, reach out. I was on the phone last night at 1:30.
Yeah, sometimes they always say, we used to have a number to call in at work if you were, struggling with issues and things. And I used to think it was called the Employee Assistance Program. And they used to say, remember, your problems at 2 or 3 in the morning often feel far worse than your problems at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Right? Because you're sitting there in silence, and I can't talk about this, and who would I ever call because it's so late and I don't want to disturb anybody. Disturb someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out.
If you ever thought, I know if I ever thought, like, well, I didn't want to call you, it was too late. Never, ever feel like that. I don't care what time it is. I could be up in a matter of a second and be wide awake. So don't feel like you can't talk about it.
There's never a time frame. Just whenever you feel the need to reach out, reach out. Whether it's us or somebody else, we are always here. Reach out. Sure. We have no problem following up. Kathy's a great resource. She's helped so many people go through it. From your 20, 30 years of struggling with the anxiety to today, I don't even recognize when she's anxious. She has to tell me she's anxious.
Yeah, I think that's also, it's almost like it's a positive and a negative, put it that way, with anxiety. Because I could have an anxiety attack and you would never know it. So,
well, others, you can see it.
Yeah, but other people, you probably could see it. But there's no real sign. So
it's almost like a good alcoholic. Like, a good alcoholic can hide the alcohol.
I'm here, I'm fine. I'm having a really bad anxiety attack, but yeah, we're good. So, but that's things that you master over time. But it's sort of your mask that you have to put on to, get through things. And it's not easy. It's really, really challenging.
Yeah, but I want to give a shout out to Danny Gaeta, because he's doing a lot with the medical marijuana for the veterans. I know 22 veterans a day committing suicide. Yes. And I just spent some time down in South Carolina with a couple of these guys, and they see the nightmares. They go through these visions of... And just think about this. When you were scared as a little kid, how you play that thing in your head and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. What have these men and women seen in the combat? That is a scary place to be.
And then you come home, and what are your resources?
Not much.
What if you don't live by a VA hospital?
Not much. That's why I said, Danny, big shout out to you, man, because Operation Vet
Fit is incredible.
An amazing organization. Any of you guys out there, veterans, combat veterans, reach out. There's a form online. You can fill it out. They can qualify you. These guys stick together in that tribe.
Right.
They stay together. They do things together. They go on whitewater rafting events. And they do all these different events to stay connected, races and camp outs and things, just to stay plugged in. If you go in it alone... Mm-hmm. That's a crazy, scary place to be, because now we're going to get into our heads.
Right.
And we are our own worst critic, our own worst enemies.
Sure.
Let those feelings, let those emotions, let those words out of your body. Otherwise, they will get bigger.
Yeah, and then you come home and, you don't have a job waiting necessarily. You might have lost a limb. You could have, it's so tragic to me that we don't do more for our
especially
veterans.
the Vietnam veterans, when they came home, they were spat on and everything else.
It's just so despicable.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that's an area we really need to improve on in the United States.
And again, this is something that's not an easy fix, but it's something that we need to talk about in order to just raise awareness. And then I know as this movement Rise as One gets moving forward, we're going to have different sections of all these things, or these topics that we talk about here. Mm-hmm. We're going to have experts in each one of those areas. How can we become part of the solution? It's great
you
to
have to do a
the
podcast with Danny Gata.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Danny's coming up. Actually, we got Lou Russo's turning 100 years old here in August 1st. So Danny's gonna be coming up. So Danny, if you're watching this or you're going to be watching this, I want to have you on my podcast. We're going to talk about this.
All the amazing things that you do and how the rest of us can get involved.
Absolutely.
Right.
Good point.
So, anything else we wanted to share? Once again, not an easy topic to talk about.
No, and this goes along with anything. I mean, none of these topics are enjoyable to talk about.
Right.
But it's something that we have to talk about, because if we don't talk and get it off our chest, it's like a rock. If you carried around a rock, a 5-pound rock for a year, it wouldn't be that bad. Mm-hmm. But 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, eventually that rock's going to become so heavy, it will squash us.
Right.
So please reach out. Please
reach out.
Please, you're not alone. You're not crazy. This is all normal human growth, the journey of life. This is just normal stuff. We all go through it.
Yeah, and then your thoughts don't define you. Because remember, we were talking about that.
You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions.
Exactly. Because
you are the awareness of your thoughts, the awareness of your emotions.
Right.
That's a great point.
Just because sometimes a thought passes in your head and you're like, whew, gosh, where did that come from? We all have thoughts. And we all have thoughts that you're like, well, I don't even know where that came from.
And a lot of it probably the news
are.
and the newspaper. A lot of it comes
from. Oh my gosh, sure.
They just blast you all that stuff. We haven't had TV now in 3 weeks here in Brooklyn. We still don't have TV internet. So it's like, I don't miss it. I'm a big TV person, but Kathy does. But when I hear commercials come on and all that stuff with the news, I'm like, I put my ears in, I'm not listening.
Oh, yeah, no, I know you don't.
Because I know that the human mind is an amazing tool for absorption. Mm-hmm. It'll absorb everything that's thrown at it. Right. So I'm very careful of protecting my energy about what enters my mind. So I constantly focus on things that I want, not what I don't want. So the news is always going to give you something negative, death, destruction.
It does. And
because that's drama. People love drama, but I don't like drama.
And it also doesn't always tell the whole story, right? So we see a video clip and we think, oh my gosh, how could that happen? And then you're like, wait, watch the whole thing. And then you see a very different side of things. So.
Hey, Joe, checking in there. Chris, what's up, brother?
I just saw Gita post about the importance of counseling in schools for children that are being bullied, maybe children that are thinking about suicide. Really good point there.
Great point, Gina. Yes, thank you. All the school teachers out there, you see this all the time.
Students can go to their guidance counselors, but they also have to know that, go to your parents and talk about those things, even though it might be a struggle. And if you can't talk to your parents and you feel like, oh my gosh, they won't listen to me, find another family member. Go to your neighbor if you have to. But I'm telling you, there's someone out there that's going to listen.
There's a lot of great people in the world. I know everybody says these people got so much bad things going on in the world, but the reality is there's a lot of great people out there. And the more you put yourself out there, you're going to see more of these great people out there.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll reach out to you. I mean, what we witnessed here when we had the storm come through with the tornado, how the neighbors pulled together. I think this is part of God's plan to bring us back together. Because right now, everybody's going in their own separate ways. They're in their own little worlds. They're on their computers. The kids are on their phones. You go to the local Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks. Everybody's on their phone. They're buried into this stuff. Mm-hmm. We have to get back to connecting as people. So go back to the 3 C's. Yeah. Reach out, connection, creation, contributions.
Absolutely. And we have to say thank you. I went up to an Eversource guy in the parking lot of Big Y, and I walked up and he looked at me like, oh dear Lord, what is she going to want? When am I going to have my power back on? You could just see his look like, okay, lady, what? I go, I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work that's between you and your men here. And I just wanted to tell you how much it's appreciated. And he was like, huh?
And I witnessed this down.
See, the look on his face was like, what?
I witnessed that when I was down in South Carolina. I walk into this restaurant, and the guys that open the door, how you doing? They're like greeting me like they know me.
Right.
And then from the north, and we're going down there like, what do you want?
Yeah, isn't that the first question? Like, he wants something from me. She wants something from me. Why are you being so pleasant? And he looked at me like I had 6 heads. And I said, oh, listen, I'm going into Big Y. Do you need water? Do you need like this? He's like, no, we're all stocked up. But I thought, for someone to almost be shocked by a thank you was really disturbing to me. Yeah. Because that should be the norm. And if it's not, we're doing something wrong as a society. Because these guys and girls were out here all hours of the day and night working 12 to 15-hour days. And if you're not out there saying thank you, you better start rethinking priorities in life, because that's got to be at the top. We got to give back and say thank you. Absolutely.
So thank you very much to my beautiful queen here for joining this evening, Sunday evening, taking time out of her busy schedule to be here with you to share her insights, her wisdom, your knowledge. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do for our family. And everybody out there, there's a recap. You are not alone. If you ever need anything, reach out. There's always somebody here for you. We are here for you. PM us on Facebook. And we can give you our number. If there's ever any issues, if you want to talk more about this subject, you want to talk more about anxiety, Kathy's here. She's an awesome resource for those things. And in the end, together, we shall rise as one. Love you guys. Have a great day. Peace out.
Peace out.